In today's episode, we're exploring 5 devastating zoo escapes that ended in tragedy. From a teacher's deadly tiger encounter during storms to a photographer's fatal cougar attack. Let's begin with the first story, where one woman's peaceful afternoon became a nightmare when nature's barriers failed. It was August 23, 2017, and the Memphis Zoo in Tennessee lay nearly deserted under the gray skies that followed a severe thunderstorm. The summer tempest had swept through the city just hours earlier, leaving puddles scattered across the concrete pathways and the air thick with humidity and the smell of rain-soaked earth. Patricia Valdez walked slowly along the Big Cat Trail, her footsteps echoing in the unusual quiet, as most visitors had stayed home due to the weather warnings that continued to flash across local news stations. At 45, Patricia was a dedicated elementary school teacher who had spent her summer break finding solace in the peaceful atmosphere of the zoo's big cat exhibits. The single mother of 2 teenage daughters had discovered that watching the powerful predators helped her decompress from the stress of managing both her classroom and her household alone. Her colleagues often teased her about spending her free time at the zoo instead of dating. But Patricia found genuine peace in observing the majestic animals as they moved through their carefully designed habitats. The Memphis Zoo's tiger exhibit featured a state-of-the-art enclosure with multiple barriers designed to keep both animals and visitors safe, including reinforced glass viewing areas, concrete moats, and a sophisticated electrical fencing system that provided an invisible but effective deterrent. The facility housed 2 Malayan tigers, including a magnificent 300-pound male named Sultan, who had become Patricia's favorite during her regular visits over the past 3 years. Malayan tigers are among the most endangered big cats in the world, with fewer than 200 individuals remaining in the wild. These powerful predators can weigh up to 300 pounds and possess incredible strength, speed, and hunting instincts that make them apex predators in their native Southeast Asian forests. Adult males are territorial and can become extremely aggressive when stressed or placed in unfamiliar environments. Their powerful jaws can crush bone with ease, while their razor-sharp claws and muscular build allow them to take down prey much larger than themselves. Patricia had noticed that Sultan seemed more agitated than usual, pacing near the perimeter of his enclosure and occasionally testing the barriers with his massive paws. What she didn't realize was that the recent thunderstorm had caused a power surge that damaged a critical section of the electrical fencing system, creating a gap in the invisible barrier that kept the massive predator contained. The malfunction had gone undetected by the zoo's monitoring systems, which were still being restored after the storm. The first sign of trouble came when Patricia heard the distinctive sound of metal scraping against concrete, followed by Sultan's low growl echoing across the empty pathways. The massive tiger had discovered the compromised section of fencing and was systematically testing the barrier with increasing boldness. Patricia looked up from the information placard she had been reading, her attention drawn by the unusual sounds coming from the direction of the tiger enclosure. Sultan pushed through the damaged electrical barrier with surprising ease, his 300-pound frame moving with fluid grace as he emerged onto the public walkway for the first time in his 7 years of captivity. The tiger's amber eyes immediately locked onto Patricia, who stood frozen just 20 feet away on the narrow concrete path that connected the various big cat exhibits. The storm-damaged trees and scattered debris had created a maze of obstacles that blocked her potential escape routes. Patricia backed slowly toward a maintenance shed, her movements careful and deliberate as she tried to avoid triggering the tiger's predatory instincts. Sultan approached with cautious steps, his massive head lowered and his powerful muscles tensed as he assessed this unexpected encounter with a human in what he now perceived as his expanded territory. The tiger's confusion and stress from the unfamiliar environment made his behavior unpredictable and increasingly dangerous. The attack came without warning as Sultan suddenly lunged forward, covering the distance between them in 2 powerful bounds. His massive paws struck Patricia's chest with bone-crushing force, driving her backward against the concrete wall of the maintenance shed while his razor-sharp claws raked across her torso. Patricia's body crumpled under the impact as Sultan's powerful jaws clamped down on her neck and shoulders, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through vital structures. Sultan's powerful bite force crushed Patricia's cervical vertebrae, while his claws continued to rake across her chest and arms, opening deep gashes that severed major arteries. The tiger's weight pinned her motionless form against the ground as his natural hunting instincts took over completely. Patricia's struggles ceased within the first minute of the attack, as massive blood loss and spinal trauma overwhelmed her system. Zoo emergency response teams arrived within 8 minutes of the first security alert, but Sultan remained aggressive and protective of his kill. The tiger had dragged Patricia's body into a corner formed by the maintenance shed and a decorative rock formation, making any rescue attempt extremely dangerous. Emergency personnel were forced to make the difficult decision to shoot Sultan when tranquilizer attempts failed to subdue the agitated predator quickly enough. The incident prompted a complete overhaul of the zoo's electrical systems and emergency protocols, with new redundant monitoring systems installed to prevent similar malfunctions. Patricia's death led to enhanced storm response procedures at zoos nationwide, ensuring that weather-related damage would be immediately detected and repaired. Her daughters established a memorial scholarship for aspiring teachers, honoring their mother's dedication to education and her love of wildlife. But electrical failures weren't the only way that zoo barriers could fail catastrophically. In Indiana, a romantic anniversary celebration would turn into a nightmare when a simple maintenance oversight put a young couple face to face with an escaped African lion. It was May 14, 2015, and the intimate pathways of Potawatomi Zoo in South Bend, Indiana, provided the perfect setting for Marcus Webb and his girlfriend Elena to celebrate their third anniversary. The small community zoo offered a peaceful alternative to crowded restaurants and tourist attractions, allowing the couple to enjoy each other's company while exploring the carefully maintained animal exhibits. The spring afternoon was warm and pleasant, with families scattered throughout the facility, enjoying the perfect weather for outdoor activities. Marcus had taken a rare day off from his job as an auto mechanic, a sacrifice that demonstrated how much this anniversary meant to him. At 29, he had built a reputation for reliability and hard work at the garage where he had been employed since graduating high school, but his dedication to his job often meant long hours that limited his time with Elena. The couple had been together since their senior year, and Marcus had been carrying an engagement ring in his pocket for weeks, waiting for the perfect moment to propose. The lion exhibit at Potawatomi Zoo featured a spacious enclosure designed to showcase the magnificent African predators, while maintaining strict safety protocols. The facility housed a mated pair of lions, including a massive 420-pound male named Simba, who had become a favorite among visitors for his impressive mane and regal bearing. Multiple barriers protected the public, including reinforced fencing, concrete moats, and a series of gates that allowed keepers to move the animals safely between different areas of their habitat. African lions are apex predators that can weigh up to 500 pounds and possess incredible strength and hunting abilities that have made them legendary throughout human history. Adult males are territorial and protective, with powerful jaws capable of crushing bone and razor-sharp claws designed for bringing down large prey. Lions are social animals that live in prides, but captive males can become extremely aggressive when they feel their territory is threatened or when they encounter unfamiliar situations that trigger their defensive instincts. Earlier that morning, a keeper had failed to properly secure the secondary gate that connected the lion's main enclosure to a smaller holding area used during feeding and veterinary procedures. The oversight occurred during the routine morning feeding, when the keeper was distracted by a radio call about a sick animal in another exhibit. The gate's locking mechanism appeared secure from a distance, but the latch hadn't fully engaged, leaving a gap that would prove fatal. Marcus and Elena were standing near the lion exhibit's information placard, reading about the zoo's conservation efforts and the lion's natural habitat in Africa. Elena had been taking photos of the magnificent male lion as he rested in the shade of an artificial rock formation, while Marcus pointed out interesting facts from the educational display. Neither of them noticed the subtle movement as Simba tested the compromised gate with his massive paw. The 420-pound lion pushed through the improperly secured barrier with surprising ease, his powerful frame emerging into the public area just 15 feet from where the couple stood. Elena's scream pierced the afternoon air as she dove behind a concrete barrier, but Marcus instinctively stepped forward to shield her from the massive predator. His protective instincts overrode any thoughts of self-preservation as he positioned himself directly between Elena and the confused lion. Simba's attack was swift and decisive, driven by territorial instincts and the stress of finding himself in an unfamiliar environment. The massive lion's paws struck Marcus with devastating force, driving him to the ground while powerful jaws clamped down on his head and neck. Marcus's body convulsed under the lion's weight as razor-sharp claws raked across his chest and arms, opening deep wounds that caused massive blood loss. The lion's powerful bite force crushed Marcus's skull and cervical vertebrae, while his claws continued to inflict devastating injuries across his torso. Marcus's movements ceased within minutes, as the combination of head trauma and blood loss proved unsurvivable. Simba maintained his grip on Marcus's motionless form, his predatory instincts keeping him focused on what he perceived as a threat to his territory. Zoo staff arrived within minutes of Elena's screams, but Simba's aggressive posture and proximity to Marcus made immediate intervention impossible. The veterinary team successfully tranquilized the lion after several tense minutes, allowing emergency medical personnel to reach Marcus. He was transported to the hospital but died from his injuries during the ambulance ride, despite the desperate efforts of paramedics to stabilize his condition. The incident led to immediate changes in gate security protocols and keeper training procedures throughout the facility, with new redundant locking systems installed on all animal enclosures. Marcus's death prompted enhanced safety inspections at small zoos nationwide, ensuring that similar oversights would be prevented through improved maintenance procedures and staff accountability measures. But keeper errors weren't the only human mistakes that could lead to deadly encounters. In New York, a construction worker's repair job would create an unexpected escape route when his welding equipment interfered with electronic security systems. It was November 3, 2016, and the off-season quiet of Seneca Park Zoo in Rochester, New York, was broken only by the sound of welding equipment as construction crews worked to repair storm damage from the previous month's ice storm. The facility had been closed to the public for 2 weeks, while contractors reinforced barriers and replaced sections of fencing that had been damaged by falling trees and heavy ice accumulation. James Kowalski arrived early for his Saturday shift, his truck loaded with the specialized equipment needed to complete the tiger enclosure repairs. At 38, James had built a successful construction business specializing in zoo and aquarium projects. His reputation for safety and attention to detail making him a preferred contractor for facilities housing dangerous animals. The father of 3 young children took immense pride in his meticulous approach to safety protocols, often spending extra time double-checking his work to ensure that both workers and animals would be protected. His crew respected his leadership and trusted his judgment on even the most challenging projects. James was working alone that morning, a decision he had made to avoid paying weekend overtime rates to his crew while still meeting the zoo's deadline for reopening. The Siberian tiger enclosure required extensive welding to repair sections of the outer fence that had been twisted and damaged by falling oak trees during the ice storm. The work involved reinforcing the steel framework while maintaining the integrity of the electronic monitoring systems that provided additional security layers. Siberian tigers are the largest cats in the world, with adult males weighing up to 660 pounds and measuring over 10 feet in length. These apex predators possess incredible strength, speed, and hunting instincts that make them among the most dangerous animals in captivity. Their powerful jaws can crush bone with ease, while their razor-sharp claws and muscular build allow them to take down prey many times their own size. Even in captivity, Siberian tigers retain all their natural behaviors and territorial instincts, making them extremely dangerous when stressed or confused. James had been welding for over 2 hours when sparks from his equipment began interfering with the electronic locking mechanism that secured the inner containment system. The high-voltage welding arc created electromagnetic interference that gradually degraded the sensitive circuits controlling the tiger's access between different areas of the enclosure. James was unaware that his work was systematically disabling the very systems designed to keep the 380-pound male tiger safely contained. The tiger, already agitated by the noise and bright flashes from the welding equipment, discovered the malfunctioning lock mechanism and began testing the barrier with increasing boldness. The massive predator's powerful paws found purchase on the compromised gate, and his 380-pound frame pushed through the opening with surprising ease. The tiger emerged into the construction area where James continued his welding work, completely unaware of the deadly situation developing behind him. James's protective welding helmet and the noise of his equipment prevented him from detecting the tiger's approach until it was too late. The massive predator moved with silent precision across the construction area, his padded paws making no sound on the concrete surface as he assessed this unexpected intruder in what he perceived as his expanded territory. The tiger's amber eyes fixed on James's crouched form as predatory instincts began to override his natural wariness of humans. The attack came from behind as the tiger launched himself at James with explosive power, his 380-pound frame striking the construction worker with devastating force. James's welding equipment scattered across the concrete as the tiger's massive paws drove him to the ground, while powerful jaws clamped down on his neck and shoulders. The protective gear that had shielded James from welding hazards provided no defense against the tiger's 4-inch canine teeth and razor-sharp claws. The tiger's powerful bite force crushed James's cervical vertebrae while his claws raked across the construction worker's back and arms, opening deep gashes that severed major arteries. James's radio calls for help went unheard due to the early morning hour and his isolated work location. The tiger's natural hunting instincts took over completely as he maintained his grip on James's motionless form, his territorial behavior keeping him focused on eliminating the perceived threat. Zoo security discovered the scene 45 minutes later during their routine patrol, finding James's body in the construction area while the tiger had returned to his normal resting area within the enclosure. The investigation revealed the electromagnetic interference that had caused the security system failure, leading to new protocols requiring electronic system shutdowns during any welding work near animal enclosures. James's death prompted enhanced safety measures for construction projects at zoos nationwide. But construction accidents weren't the only workplace hazards that could turn deadly. In New York, a dedicated teacher's field trip would become her final lesson when she sacrificed herself to save her students from an escaped jaguar. It was April 7, 2014, and the educational pathways of Rosamond Gifford Zoo in Syracuse, New York, echoed with the excited voices of 28 7th-grade students as they explored the facility during their annual science field trip. The spring morning was perfect for outdoor learning, with clear skies and comfortable temperatures that made the walking tour enjoyable for both students and chaperones. Linda Chen moved strategically through the group, her experienced teacher's eye keeping track of the more adventurous students who might be tempted to wander away from the designated tour route. At 52, Linda had spent over 2 decades in the classroom, her passion for science education making her a beloved figure at Roosevelt Middle School. She had organized this field trip to complement her students' unit on ecosystems and predator-prey relationships, believing that direct observation of wildlife would reinforce the concepts they had been studying in textbooks. Linda's colleagues respected her dedication to hands-on learning and her ability to maintain control over even the most challenging groups of adolescents. The Jaguar exhibit featured a naturalistic habitat designed to showcase the powerful South American predators while providing multiple viewing opportunities for educational groups. The facility housed a pair of jaguars, including a 180-pound male named Diego, who had been born at the zoo and raised in captivity. The enclosure included dense vegetation, climbing structures, and a series of interconnected areas that allowed the jaguars to exhibit natural behaviors while remaining safely contained behind multiple barrier systems. Jaguars are the third largest big cats in the world, with powerful builds that make them exceptional hunters both on land and in water. These solitary predators possess the strongest bite force of any big cat, capable of crushing turtle shells and caiman skulls with ease. Adult jaguars can weigh up to 250 pounds and move with silent stealth through dense vegetation, making them nearly invisible until they choose to strike. Their territorial nature and powerful hunting instincts remain fully intact in captivity, making them extremely dangerous when stressed or confused. The previous day's veterinary examination had required Diego to be temporarily moved to a holding area connected to the main enclosure through an emergency exit gate. The maintenance staff member responsible for securing the gate after the procedure had been called away to handle an urgent situation with another animal, leaving the locking mechanism engaged but not properly tested. The gate appeared secure from visual inspection, but the latch hadn't fully seated, creating a potential escape route that went undetected. Linda's group had gathered near the Jaguar exhibit for their guided presentation about predator adaptations and conservation efforts. The students were engaged and asking thoughtful questions about jaguar behavior and habitat requirements when Diego discovered the compromised gate and began testing it with his powerful paws. The 180-pound jaguar pushed through the improperly secured barrier, emerging onto the public walkway just yards from where the school group stood clustered around their guide. The moment Diego appeared on the pathway, Linda's teacher instincts took over completely. She immediately positioned herself between the confused jaguar and her students, while shouting instructions for them to run toward the nearby gift shop. Her quick thinking and decisive action gave the 28 seventh graders the precious seconds they needed to reach safety, but her protective positioning left her directly in the jaguar's path with no escape route available. Diego's attack was driven by fear and confusion rather than predatory behavior, but the result was equally devastating. The jaguar's powerful jaws clamped down on Linda's head and neck, while his razor-sharp claws raked across her torso and arms. Linda's body was driven to the ground under the jaguar's 180-pound weight as his natural defensive instincts took over completely. The big cat's powerful bite force crushed vital structures while his claws inflicted deep wounds that caused massive blood loss. Zoo staff arrived as the last students reached the safety of the gift shop, but Diego's continued aggression and proximity to Linda made immediate intervention extremely dangerous. The veterinary team successfully tranquilized the jaguar within minutes, allowing emergency medical personnel to reach Linda. However, her injuries were too severe, and she died at the scene despite the immediate efforts of paramedics and zoo medical staff. The incident led to comprehensive reviews of gate security procedures and emergency protocols at educational facilities nationwide, with new redundant locking systems and mandatory double checks implemented for all animal enclosures. Linda's heroic action saved all 28 of her students, and her school district established an annual award in her honor, recognizing teachers who demonstrate exceptional dedication to student safety and welfare. But even the most routine professional activities could turn deadly when equipment malfunctions created unexpected dangers. In Connecticut, a wildlife photographer's camera equipment would malfunction at the worst possible moment, creating a deadly encounter with an escaped cougar. It was September 19, 2013, and the peaceful atmosphere of Beardsley Zoo in Bridgeport, Connecticut, provided the perfect setting for freelance photographer Anthony Rivera to document the facility's conservation efforts for a local environmental magazine. The 33-year-old photographer had spent 3 days at the zoo, patiently building trust with both the animals and staff while capturing authentic images of wildlife behavior and habitat design. His small but dedicated readership appreciated his commitment to showcasing the important work being done at regional conservation facilities. Anthony had developed a reputation for his patience and technical skill in wildlife photography, often spending hours waiting for the perfect moment when an animal's natural behavior would create compelling imagery. His work focused on educating the public about conservation efforts and the importance of protecting endangered species through captive breeding programs. The Beardsley Zoo assignment represented exactly the type of meaningful project that had drawn him to wildlife photography as a career. The cougar exhibit featured a naturalistic habitat designed to showcase the powerful North American predators while providing excellent photographic opportunities through strategically placed viewing areas. The facility housed a single male cougar named Scout, a 140-pound adult who had been rescued as an orphaned cub and raised in captivity. The enclosure included rocky outcroppings, dense vegetation, and multiple levels that allowed Scout to exhibit natural climbing and hunting behaviors. Cougars are powerful predators that can weigh up to 200 pounds and possess incredible strength, speed, and agility that make them formidable hunters throughout their range in North and South America. These solitary cats are capable of leaping vertically up to 15 feet and can reach speeds of 50 miles per hour when pursuing prey. Adult cougars have powerful jaws and razor-sharp claws designed for bringing down large mammals, and they retain all their natural hunting instincts even when raised in captivity from birth. Anthony had been photographing Scout for over an hour, capturing images of the cougar's natural behaviors as he moved through his habitat with fluid grace. The photographer's professional-grade camera equipment included a powerful flash system designed to provide consistent lighting for wildlife photography, but the unit had been showing signs of electrical problems throughout the morning. Anthony had noticed occasional misfires and irregular flash patterns, but he continued working while planning to have the equipment serviced after completing the assignment. The malfunction occurred just as Anthony was capturing what he hoped would be the perfect shot of Scout resting on a rocky outcropping. The camera's flash system suddenly began firing in rapid succession, creating a strobing effect that immediately startled the 140-pound cougar. Scout leaped toward the source of the disturbing lights, his powerful muscles propelling him against the viewing area barrier, with enough force to exploit a faulty latch that had been scheduled for replacement the following week. The barrier gave way under Scout's panicked leap, allowing the disoriented cougar to escape directly into the public viewing area, where Anthony crouched with his camera equipment. The photographer found himself trapped by his tripod and camera bag as the confused and agitated cougar landed just feet away from his position. Scout's amber eyes fixed on Anthony with predatory intensity as the strobing lights continued to flash erratically from the malfunctioning equipment. Scout's attack was driven by defensive instincts and confusion rather than predatory behavior, but his natural weapons made the encounter equally lethal. The cougar's powerful paws struck Anthony with bone-crushing force, driving him backward into his scattered photography equipment, while razor-sharp claws raked across his chest and arms. Scout's jaws clamped down on Anthony's neck and shoulders, his 4-inch canine teeth puncturing through vital structures, while his 140-pound weight pinned the photographer to the ground. The cougar's powerful bite force crushed Anthony's cervical vertebrae, while his claws continued to inflict deep wounds across his torso and limbs. Anthony's struggles ceased within minutes as the combination of spinal trauma and massive blood loss overwhelmed his system. Scout maintained his grip on Anthony's motionless form, his defensive instincts keeping him focused on eliminating what he perceived as a continuing threat from the still-flashing camera equipment. A zookeeper arrived within minutes of the initial commotion and successfully tranquilized Scout before the cougar could inflict additional damage. Emergency medical personnel reached Anthony immediately after the cougar was sedated, but his injuries were too severe for any medical intervention. He died at the scene despite the immediate efforts of paramedics and zoo medical staff to stabilize his condition. The incident led to immediate inspections of all barrier latch mechanisms and emergency protocols for equipment malfunctions during professional photography sessions. Anthony's death prompted enhanced safety measures for media professionals working at zoos nationwide, with new requirements for equipment testing and backup safety procedures during wildlife photography assignments. Thanks for watching. Click the next video showing why controlled environments become deadly when safety systems fail.